To give it some. Where does the phrase originate from? To give it some welly. Let us have a look, shall we? Where did the phrase give it some welly originate? I've heard this a few times, and I would presume that it comes from Wellingtons with the meaning of put some boot into it. Is there an origin for this phrase? Could it refer to the Duke of Wellington and his battles? OED has a definition. Welly, slang, a kick, acceleration. Under the entry for abbreviation of Wellington, boot. But I must admit, when I use the expression give it some welly, I've always assumed I'm referencing a derivative of sorts. Welt. To beat, thrash. Noun, a stroke with a lash or pliant stick, also a heavy blow with the fist. Example. Let me give it a welt with my hammer. Give it a good welt from the back, and it will come out. So unless anyone can produce evidence of give it some boot, being an earlier alternative form, I'm sticking with my current thoughts of the matter. On the basis of no evidence whatsoever, I'm now more willing than ever to give credence to the possibility that the origin relates to welly wanging, which could have either started or been gaining nationwide awareness around the late 60s or early 70s, the same time as the expression under consideration here. The art of successful welly wanging is to impart as much acceleration to the boot as possible before flinging it. There are also probably phonosemantic factors involved in the retention and spread of currency. Ordinarily, the wang in welly wanging means throw, but here, for example, it's a welt, whack, wallop, wham, whop. Lots of W words imply the application of force. Comments. It became commonplace during my childhood, at a time when I was also accustomed to hearing my parents threatening me with things like, "I'll give you such a welt." So the hard blow association seems natural to me. And I really can't see people talking about giving someone a hard kicking or flooring the car accelerator pedal in the context of wearing Wellington boots. That sounds about as likely as give it some high-heeled shoes. Not exactly the appropriate footwear for the occasion. Reply. This expression isn't used in the US. As far as I know. But Nigel Rees, a word in your shell-like, says that the phrase to give something some welly dates from the 1970s in British use. He writes, Wellies is, of course, a common name for waterproof rubber Wellington boots, so perhaps the image is that of booted foot being applied to a spade in some digging task that requires a good deal of effort. Reply. I, of course, am a Brit. And the expression was gaining traction when I was a teenager. Nowadays, you might hear it used in all sorts of contexts. At a concert, encouraging a drummer or singer to belt it out, say. But so far as I recall, it was originally only used in respect of thrashing or revving a car or motorbike engine, which you probably wouldn't be doing in Wellington boots. In the days before the Green Welly Brigade, Wellington boot was the language of children, not desperately trying to be men adolescents. Signed, Fumble Fingers. Reply. Thanks for the follow-up, Fumble Fingers. Apropos of Nigel Rees, is he generally regarded as a well-informed commentator on UK slang and word usage? I ask because his books cover many, many expressions that I've never heard over here in the US. So I have no independent sense of how reliable he is. I wouldn't want to bring his opinions up on EL and U. If he's widely regarded as a charlatan in the geographical regions where he claims expertise. Thanks again, Sven Jagers. Sven, I'm not exactly a scholar, but Nigel Rees certainly has my endorsement in general. And for all I know, everyone else except me thought and continues to think giving it some welly somehow derives from give it some Wellington boot. But I grew up thinking of it as a new, cool derivative of give it a welt or belt or thrashing. And I can't change my past. For me personally, that's the reference I've always intended, regardless of whether it's been or being received as such by others. Signed, Fumble Fingers. Final reply. In Doctor Who, episode The Doctor's Wife, the Doctor says to Amy, "Right now I'm burning up my TARDIS rooms to give us some welly. Goodbye swimming pool. Goodbye scullery. Sayonara Squash Court 7. He was trying to get more power out of his time machine. One could deduce he was giving it a thrashing. But one can also say the good doctor was putting the pedal to the metal. He wouldn't have been bringing down a bruising on himself and Amy. Would he?